Patrick Riggins Show. Call in now, 865-243-TALK. That's 243-8255. And now your host, Patrick Riggins.
Welcome to the Rocky Horror Picture Show. No, really, welcome to the Patrick Riggins Show. One of the few shows on which you will hear the Time Warp being played as bumper music. I guess if you're watching on the webcam, we could actually be doing the Time Warp here in the studio. What do you think, Tori? No.
Yes.
Yeah. Speaking of Time Warp, you're listening to the number one radio station in East Tennessee, WNOX, FM 100.3. Broadcasting its signal at the speed of light, or as close as you can get. Since we are not living in a perfect vacuum, you can probably expect slightly less than the speed of light. But don't worry, the information and analysis you are receiving is still timely, and in regards to freedom and liberty, timeless. But you aren't required to procure an over-the-airwaves radio frequency receiver to convert the electromagnetic signal into audible sound pressure waves for your enjoyment. You can also dial us up over the internet at www.wnoxfm.com. There you can watch as well as listen to the radio show in real time via the in-studio webcam. And you can watch Tori doing the Time Warp. That address again, if you need it, is wnoxfm.com. And as I mentioned before, working diligently right here beside me and dancing the Time Warp behind his console is Tori. And he's the one thing standing in between me and a train wreck of a show.
Just standing in between, I'm helping. I'm helping to drive the train.
But the Time Warp is good. I don't think you're going to catch that on... well, I've never heard that on any show. Thank you again to everyone for tuning in again this week to the one radio show steadfastly standing for freedom and liberty. Not a liberal-minded definition, nor a conservative-minded one either. Here we offer an American-minded definition that embodies freedom and liberty from overbearing and intrusive government. You may ask yourself, Patrick, why so much government?
Why so much government, Patrick?
Yeah, really. Unless your name is Patrick, you might want to see a professional if you frequently refer to yourself by other people's names. For those who may ask themselves, hey, insert your first name here.
Hey, insert your first name here.
Yeah, why so much government? Yeah, it's because we have allowed it to grow. Government used to not play such a huge role in everyone's life. It was business and companies. It was people making money. Sure, there were companies that took advantage of employees, but at least you could choose to not work for them if you didn't want to. If you don't like the way a particular government is treating its people or what it stood for, you can protest by not purchasing their products. You hit the company right where it hurts them, the bottom line. Try that with a government agency sometime. If you don't like how they treat you, well, too bad. And if you think you can just ignore them if you don't agree with their policies, then you will probably end up paying a fine or, heck, even being criminally charged. Who in their right mind agrees that TSA people wandering their hands all over your body at the airport is acceptable? Who thinks the EPA doesn't overstep their bounds when they declare your property a wetland and restrict what you can build? Oh, it's still your property. You just can't use it however you want. Start screwing around with them, and your property is going to end up belonging to the government. Same thing with taxes. Don't pay them or have a dispute, someone with a gun will be seizing your house and anything else they want. Or even worse, you can be put on a watch list and not allowed to fly. Now, this isn't some private business saying you can't fly on their airplane. This is the government saying you cannot utilize the transportation services of an entire private business sector in America. And if that doesn't bother you enough, how about the president deciding to declare you a domestic terrorist because of what you might have posted on the internet? Now you can be kidnapped and taken to a secret interrogation facility somewhere in the world and never be heard from again. These things and many more are going on right now, and we as Americans are letting it happen. Why? Because the people to whom they are doing these things are not us. If it were you, it would probably make a whole lot more difference in your daily life. Unless we stand up for those who cannot speak up for themselves, then we are going to be doomed to suffer the same fate in the future. It won't be for the same reasons, but for something new, whatever is going on in that point of time. Who is going to be speaking for you then? If you are sitting around allowing these things to happen and not trying to change anything, then don't scream and yell about others turning a blind eye when the government is causing you problems. Government will take as much as you will allow it to have, and even then it will want more. It is never satisfied, so we must be eternally vigilant in the watching of our representatives. I know this is Patrick's sermon number 32, but you have to let these guys know they are your employees. All of these people work for you. You pay their salary. You wouldn't tolerate bad service or disrespect in a restaurant. You wouldn't allow the dry cleaner to get away with ruining your favorite piece of clothing. You would fire somebody working in your house that is secretly stealing from you. Why would you allow your representative in Congress to get off any easier? By keeping them on their toes, you are keeping them honest. Stay informed and updated on their positions, the bills they are helping sponsor or not sponsor, and the votes they cast, their testimony on the committees on which they serve. All these things are important and necessary if you're going to keep government in check. This week, we have more excitement and fun, but unfortunately, never enough time. Although we're going to cram as much in as we can over this next hour. So stay with me. This is Patrick Riggins, along with Tori, the sole producer, doing the time warp. Yeah, we will be back in a few minutes.
Fighting for freedom, liberty, and the restoration of the Constitution. The Patrick Riggins Show. Call in now at 865-243-8255. That's 243-TALK. And now your host, Patrick Riggins.
This is Patrick Riggins with the Patrick Riggins Show. Along with Tori here, right next to me. Not doing the time warp this time, though. Doing more of the schism with Tool here.
Yeah, you can't do the time warp to Tool.
No.
You can try, but you're going to look like an idiot.
They're going to think you're hearing other music in your head.
And then they will take you away and put you up somewhere.
Yeah, that's what we need to play on
They're
here.
Coming to take me away.
Nervous Norvis, wasn't it? Is he saying that? Nervous Norvis?
Yeah.
Or something like that. Yeah. Boy, everybody's going, yeah, he's a little over 20.
What are they talking about?
Yeah. All right.
Hello, Fada.
Yeah, more exactly. I had the whole record of that.
I did too. Looney Tunes. It was on 8-track. That dates my age. I had it on 8-track. Bought brand new. My mom bought it for me brand new off 8-track. It was called Looney Tunes. It had like Hello Mudda and
had all the funny things. They're coming to take me away and what was it? Transfusion.
You had the same Westworld, yeah.
Never, ever going to speed again.
Was yours on 8-track?
No, it was on vinyl.
Mine was. 8-track tape kids are things that we used to have when we were young.
Yeah.
When old people were young.
Back when MTV played videos.
It was before MTV.
Well, it was before that, wasn't it?
It was before cable, in my case, and Seymour is when we had 3 channels. And
we had the UHF stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Snowy.
All right, this week we have a bunch of stuff going on. There was some more criticism of Obamacare this week, and this time it came from an unlikely source, mainly Democratic governors. At least 7 of these governors have been hesitant about giving a commitment from their state to expand their Medicaid program to extend coverage to people with incomes below or near the poverty line. Oh, I've got Tory stuff floating around my head now. One of them is the governor of Montana, Brian Schweitzer, who, as I said, is a Democrat, and released this statement last Wednesday. Quote, unlike the federal government, Montana just can't print money. Why, with him saying that, I would think you'd listen to this show, as evidenced by this quote from me.
Governors or mayors who are not getting the kind of help that they have in the past from the federal government, and who don't have the same kind of flexibility as the federal government in dealing with fewer revenues coming in.
Yep. Those state local governments, they just don't have the same flexibility as the federal government. And what is that? Well, the feds, they just crank up the printing presses and print more dollars. There you go. And you heard that from the Montana governor. Montana just can't print money. Governor Schweitzer also added that, quote, we, meaning his state in Montana, have a budget surplus and we're going to keep it that way, unquote. One of the dangers of the law is the adding of an estimated 84,000 people to Montana's Medicaid program, effectively doubling its size and running the state's share of the costs up to $71 million. One of the quiet proponents of all of this mess are the hospitals, which are chronically burdened with the cost of treating the uninsured. Hospital associations agreed to help fund the law by accepting various cuts to their reimbursement rates, with the expectation that they would be more than compensated by the money from patients newly insured through Medicaid. Bruce Rubin, the president of the Florida Hospital Association, says that now hospitals worry they will be stuck with only the downside of the bargain. Again, that's if no one has told him, that's what happens when you make a deal with the devil, i.e. the government. Matt Salo, the director of the National Association of Medicaid Directors, which that just tells you, do we even need a National Association of Medicaid Directors? But anyway, he said, quote, if you're dealing with a high number of uninsured people and your payments from other sources go down, you have no way to cover that unmet cost. He also predicted that hospital representatives will soon be directing a lobbying blitz at governors and state legislatures, which in most states will be deciding whether or not to expand Medicaid in their particular state. The White House notes that the federal government will pay the full cost of covering the newly insured in the first 3 years, and never less than 90% after that. Now, Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal said the president needs to understand what makes this country great. In part is that we're not dependent on government programs. It seems to him like the president measures success by how many people are on food stamp rolls and government health care. That's not the American dream. You're so right, Governor Jindal. It seems like he may have been listening to this show as well, because I addressed this very topic just a couple of weeks ago. The American dream is defined by Obama as being a good and loyal citizen, dutifully going to work, paying your taxes, and living according to how the government wants you to live. And only then are you living the American dream. You see, it's much easier to change the definition of something than to change people. By changing the definition of the American dream, people will begin to work towards that instead of that pesky old definition we used to have of everyone having freedom and liberty and being created equal. If Obama and his little band of like-minded socialists can redefine the American dream so that the results and rewards are what define it, then only the fact that you have them will matter, not how you got them. If the government is the one providing that outcome, then people will start to see it as integral to achieving this new definition of the American dream. In doing so, the government will be just one step closer to defeating these ideas of freedom and liberty. Exactly. So, what about the people saying we don't know how this healthcare situation will turn out because we've not tried it yet? To that, I would say au contraire. In 1994, Tennessee started what was called TennCare by adding 500,000 new individuals to health coverage. By 2001, the system's costs were growing faster than the state budget, and Tennessee topped the nation in prescription drug use. By 2004, TennCare's drug benefits cost the state of Tennessee more than its entire higher education program, with the budget for the TennCare jumping to $6.9 billion, which incidentally is 25% of the state's appropriations. At that time, a report from consulting firm McKinsey & Company projected the program's costs could hit $12.8 billion by 2008, which would account for 36% of the state's appropriations and 91% of new state tax revenues. At that time, Democratic Governor Phil Bredesen declared the report, quote, sobering, and rather than Tennessee face bankruptcy, he scaled back the program, dropping about 200,000 individuals in about 4 months. In 2007, he told the journal Health Affairs that the idea of TennCare had failed. No, this is not just an isolated case. The state of Maine tried a similar program in 2003, and by 2009, the uninsured rate among individuals still hovered around 10%, effectively unchanged from when the program began. It wasn't without accomplishments, though. The taxpayers picked up an additional $155 million in debt, putting the state deeper into massive budget shortfalls. With all of this evidence, the liberals and some conservatives still say we need the government running our healthcare system. It is almost like listening to them argue that the Soviet Union's model was not wrong, just wrongly implemented. If only they can be in charge, then they can work everything out right. What they consistently ignore is that individuals can work these things out for themselves. That is the best way to make coverage available to the maximum number of people at the most inexpensive price. Besides, we can't afford it anyway. The Congressional Budget Office has estimated that the U.S. fiscal situation is unsustainable, with publicly held debt likely reaching 90% of GDP by 2020. The main reason we don't need the healthcare running, or the government running healthcare, is that it's just wrong, plain and simple. It is troubling to me that fellow Americans feel like I owe them a living. I owe them stuff. And if I don't want to pay for it, or if they don't want to pay for it, then I have to do it. But again, I've gone over this before, as we'll listen to real quickly here. Stop asking your fellow citizens to pay for your life. And that is what you're doing with government-sponsored health care, or governmental anything. You are telling the taxpayers of this country that you cannot afford to pay for something, so now they have to provide it for you. And don't call up telling me your sob story on how your grandmother couldn't afford her health care, or your son has some disease which is bankrupting your finances. I'm sorry. Believe me, I am truly sorry if something like that is happening to you or someone you know. But does that overrule my rights and freedoms? Does the fact that life is not fair, that things don't always work out here on earth, is that my fault? And if it isn't, then why am I having to pay for it? There you go. And regular listeners to this show recognize all of this. But this show grows so quickly and has been growing so quickly, I like to refer back to this just so the new listeners will know where we're arguing from. You can't get around it. Life is not fair. And penalizing your fellow American citizens because of that is wrong. Now, if that hurts to hear, then Jack Nicholson has a few words for you.
You can't handle the truth.
There you go. The truth hurts, but that doesn't make it any less true. Anyway, we're coming up on the bottom of the hour. Again, just swept through that 30 minutes quickly. This is Patrick Riggins with the Patrick Riggins Show. We'll be back after a couple of messages with even more in the next half hour of the show.
Fighting for freedom, liberty, and the restoration of the Constitution. The Patrick Riggins Show. Call in now at 865-243-8255. That's 243-TALK. And now your host, Patrick Riggins.
Welcome back. Little bad company there. This is Patrick Riggins with the Patrick Riggins Show, hanging out with bad company Tori. Actually, I'm probably bringing your rep down by you hanging with me.
No, I'd say it's definitely the other way around.
I don't know. You've got accomplishments. You're like a drummer and everything, and got talent.
That's an accomplishment?
Yeah, let me tell you, I've tried it, and anything better than just beating is accomplishment.
It's just beating things with sticks.
But it's in time, and I have no time.
Hello.
Oh, go ahead and throw that in there.
Ladies and gentlemen, the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd have to have a mirror, though. You know.
Glad you caught that. I didn't know that would kind of fall past you there.
No, I've
Morse
seen
Day in the time.
Yeah, Morse Day. Is somebody messed my hair up?
He stole Purple Rain, by the way, but
yeah,
totally
he did.
Stole the movie.
He did steal that movie. Of course, that's kind of like taking candy from a baby, isn't it? Oh yeah, that'll get a call. Yeah. All right, again, this is Patrick Riggins with the Patrick Riggins Show. Welcome back for the second half hour of fun and excitement. Real quickly here, I just want to cover something, and then we'll try to get to some calls we've got holding. In the continuing saga of the fruitless drug war our company spends untold billions of dollars on each year, both directly in this country and in other countries as well, the Mexican president-elect, and I'm going to screw this name up, I'll tell you right now, but it's Enrique Peña, and I guess it's Nieto or Nieto.
Yeah.
That's probably what it is.
Yeah.
Well, he has suggested he would like to refocus the war on drugs in his country from the people running the cartels to the street-level criminals and dealers. Now, some experts claim this could result in more instances of human rights abuses in the quest for a perceived greater safety for the citizens of that country. An argument frequently heard over and over in countries where the so-called drug war is being fought, including this one, the United States. Manuel Zamora, who is an assistant professor at the Center for Security Studies, which is located at Angelo State University in Texas, has some reservations about this increased security or scrutiny of street-level dealers. He stated, quote, "With human rights questions already prevalent in Mexico, this strategy will likely lead to more human rights complaints and abuses." Also, Gustavo de la Rosa Hickerson, the Juarez ombudsman for the Human Rights Commission for the state of Chihuahua, Mexico, said that since 2008, the rule of law has virtually ceased to exist. Homes, vehicles, and people are randomly searched without probable cause or search warrants. Sounds kind of like here. Unfortunately, many Mexicans, exhausted by 6 years of violence, have begun to accept the trade-off between their rights and a promised greater safety. Zamora said for many people, if it helps reduce crime and violence, human rights violations are more likely to be tolerated. He also said De La Rosa Hickerson agreed, saying people would rather feel safe than to have justice, which reminds me of this quote from the classic movie Full Metal Jacket. Oh, did you have me up, Tori? Yeah,
do it again, I'm sorry.
Here we go. Again, this is a quote from Full Metal Jacket, a classic movie. Have you seen Full Metal Jacket, Tori?
Many, many, many times.
Yes, very good.
I'd rather be alive than free, I guess.
Rather be alive than free. This is what I'm afraid our country is starting to head down the road towards. People who believe the government when it tells them if they will give up their freedom and liberty, then the government will take care of them and make everything safe. When in fact, that is a huge lie. The government cannot take all the risk out of life, and it cannot protect you from people intent on doing you harm. The best it can do is allow you to have the freedom to protect yourself. But as we often point out on this show, the government has no plans to give you back any of your rights, freedoms, or liberties it has taken from you. As for that quote from Full Metal Jacket, they'd rather be alive than free. Here are some inspirational words from our past.
This is no time for ceremony. The question before this House is one of awful moment to the country. For my part, I consider it as nothing less than a question of freedom or slavery. Are we disposed to be among the number of those who, having eyes, see not, and having ears, hear not the things which so nearly concern their temporal salvation? For my own part, whatever anguish of spirit it may cost, I am willing to know the whole truth, to know the worst, and to provide for it. What is it that gentlemen wish? What would they have? Is life so dear, or peace so sweet, as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery? Forbid it, Almighty God. I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death.
For those of you who are sleeping in history class, that was a speech by Patrick Henry. Admittedly, that is a shortened version I put together from the much longer speech. I should also note, for those who maybe weren't even sleeping but skipping class altogether that day, that was, of course, a recreation of Patrick Henry's speech.
About to say. Sounds pretty good to be that old.
Yeah. It was given on March 23rd, 1775, and the actor doing that is Richard Schumann. The voice recording, of course, had not been invented yet when Patrick Henry gave that speech. Now, if you'd like to read the entire speech, you can Google Patrick Henry, and you will find many different websites with the full transcript. It is very inspirational to read, and I hope you take the time to do it. What it demonstrates is how seriously our founders took the issues of liberty and freedom. And if they could see what is happening in America today, they would probably lead an uprising against the government, just like they did against the King of England. Although in modern times, they would be labeled kooks, domestic terrorists, and imprisoned for advocating the positions they did back then. Sad, really, that we have come this far. These people in Mexico are getting screwed over by our country's ridiculous pursuit of this unending drug war, a war we cannot win. How are you going to win a war against a practice that has been going on since mankind has been on this earth? Humans have always abused some sort of substance throughout history. It is going to happen. You cannot stop it. But fighting a war without an end does have its benefits. It gives the government another reason to restrict and, in some cases, outright steal our rights and freedoms. Plus, it gives all these companies supplying this cool high-tech gear a market, and a government one at that. Governments are easy to sell things to because they are spending someone else's money. It is like shooting fish in a barrel. The sales reps get rich, the owners of the companies get rich, and everyone feels great as our citizens' freedoms and liberties are flushed down the toilet. And all these people selling these whiz-bang items and lobbying the government for more and more money, to me, they are traitors selling out their fellow citizens for the almighty dollar. Just like Judas Iscariot from the Bible, these people are betraying their fellow Americans by lobbying for more money to purchase things to infringe the rights of the citizens of this country. Now, if you are one of these people, if you are selling things to the government that enable them to more easily violate the rights of your neighbors and friends, then yes, you are part of the problem. If you are one of the TSA employees, you are part of the problem. You may ask, what am I supposed to do?
What am I supposed to do?
Yeah, this is how I earn my living. I'm sorry. The defense, quote, that's how I earn my living, does not excuse what you are doing. If you are part of this problem, then you need to man up or woman up and quit and find another line of work. Because you are an embarrassment to the founders and people who have fought hard for the rights that you are helping to strip away. Now, if it hurts for you to hear this, again, I'll play this for you again.
You can't handle the truth.
And the truth is what you're going to get on this show. And some people may call the truth ugly, as in the ugly truth, but I say the truth is beautiful. And like always trying to do the right thing, it allows you to sleep at night. if you are not one of these traitors helping our government violate the rights of your fellow citizens, then your responsibility is to put pressure on your representatives to stop all these fictional wars and start restoring to Americans their rights, liberties, and freedoms, which we all used to hold so dear, but are just being taken away right and left. Do you want to throw in anything? Nope.
I was just going to say, calling it your job doesn't make it right.
Exactly. There's a lot of Nazi guards that did that.
Wow.
So
that's pretty heavy, but you're right.
That's exactly. I was just doing my job, sir. That's what they'll tell you. Anyway, we're up on the last segment of the show. This is Patrick Riggins with the Patrick Riggins Show. We'll be back after these messages.
Fighting for freedom, liberty, and the restoration of the Constitution. The Patrick Riggins Show. Call in now at 865-243-8255. That's 243-TALK. And now your host, Patrick Riggins.
Welcome back to the last segment of the show. This is Patrick Riggins with the Patrick Riggins Show. Lots and lots of stuff going on here behind the scenes. But that's what happens in a major network show like this. Isn't that right, Tori? Tori just stays busy. It's a good thing you're a drummer, because you got like hands all over the console there, moving stuff around.
It is called definitely multitasking. You have to multitask to do this gig, that's for sure.
But it sounds so good.
Oh, well, thank you. That's my job, is to make you look pretty.
Oh, well, you're not doing your job.
And sound pretty. Well, looks I can't do much about, but sound pretty.
Yeah, I've got that face for radio, you know.
Yes.
And everyone sitting out there is going, well, that's the 1,035th time I've heard that stupid thing. So, all right, we're going to try to jump to a couple of calls here if we can, right here at the end of the show here. Sorry to get to y'all so late, but we'll go to Randy here in, I believe, Knoxville. Go ahead, Randy.
Hey, how you doing?
Pretty good. How you doing today?
I love your show. I think you're doing a great job, and the truth is something that really you can't divide or, it really is not polarizing. It is the truth.
Well, it's polarizing to people who don't like it. To the people who don't want to hear it. You know, unfortunately in America today, there's a lot of people who don't want to hear the truth, because if you hear the truth, then you have to deal with the problem that the truth addresses.
I wanted to bring up 2 points real quick. Number one, I love the Patrick Henry speech.
Yes.
People need to go back and research Patrick Henry's life. Patrick Henry was opposed to the federal government having so much power, and he rightly predicted if this power were given, that they would be out of control within 200 years. Well, go back and read Patrick Henry in detail, and you'll see he was absolutely a prophet as much as a politician.
Yeah, it is amazing to me how prescient our founders were, how they knew human behavior and human will and tendencies just from seeing all these other civilizations and looking at what happened. They knew what humans were and where they would push towards. And it just amazes me that they knew how all this would go and put in checks and balances to try and stop that. But, of course, if our leaders ignore them by the Congress just delegating their powers to an agency, or the president just issuing executive orders right and left, then
right.
They would tell us, well, you're letting these people get away with it, so it's actually our fault, which it is.
The second thing and you're right, the second thing is that everybody should go back and remember Bill and Hillary Clinton's first platform product, which was national health care.
Yeah.
And they put it out there right out of the chute because they knew that it wouldn't be supported, but they wanted to go ahead and put the temperature in the pot where the frog was setting, so that they would start to get accustomed to hearing this. And Jay Rockefeller was quoted, and he doesn't get quoted very often because he's kind of behind the scenes, but, he's from a very influential family, no doubt. And he was quoted during that time when Clinton was promoting that, we're going to have national health care whether people want it or not. And the fact is that both sides of the aisle, as they like to refer to themselves, have voted for this and support this because I think their re-election campaigns are funded by people who want it.
Sure. Just, part of what we're talking about today, the hospitals are behind this because they lobby for this thing. What I've played on this show a few weeks ago where the Republicans have said, we're going to repeal and replace. And they keep saying that like that's supposed to sell it to us. No, we don't want replace. We just want repeal. We don't want the other part. But these guys are all big government people, so they really don't have a problem. You know, the Democrats will kind of screw us over quick, and the Republicans will screw us over the next 5 years. So, but the end result's the same.
What we need in America is an American party.
Sure.
And people need to go back and realize that the status quo, if you look at history from the 29 stock market crash to what's getting ready to happen, and if people don't wake up and
well, the thing is, just have you a lot of gold. That's what you want is gold, because when you have a currency, well, it's just like anything. People don't understand. You know, if I'm selling a product on the street and I make more and more and more of this product, then the price is going to go down. That's just how it is. And if we have dollars and we make more and more and more and more dollars, then the value is going to go down. That's just how it works. I don't understand why people don't see this happening before their very eyes. You can see it in products. Markets work across the board, but they don't see it as far as the dollar is concerned. They say you're crazy, or you're a kook, or one of those crazy people who want to get a shack out in the hills and pile up gold and guns, and that's the thing. It's we have too many people now that just don't think. They just sit in front of the TV, watch American Idol, and whatever the news tells them is what the truth is.
Well, didn't the government confiscate gold and make it illegal to keep it at one time?
At one time they did, yes. And
they put a currency out there that really didn't have to be collateralized, I guess you could say?
Yeah, they did. And that's the problem.
Are those the same dollars we have today?
Yeah, and what they say now is you base the value of the money is changes, and it's more based on what your country produces and that sort of thing. It doesn't have a hard currency behind it. And when you start doing that, then you have places like the Federal Reserve, which is now starting to get some scrutiny. Thank you to Dr. Ron Paul there in Congress. When he started bringing all this up, people said he's just crazy and kooky. What's the Federal Reserve anyway? Because most people don't know what it is. It is a bunch of private bankers manipulating the money supply. Now, that's not conspiratorial. That's just the truth.
Well, didn't they find that in 1913 down on Jekyll Island, Georgia?
Exactly. And they went, if you'll read about how it was founded, it was very secret. They went down on trains back then, and they pretty much went and didn't tell anybody what they were doing. Again, as you mentioned, in the healthcare law, or when Clinton tried to bring that up, and she violated the sunshine meetings. Again, when these people are doing stuff in private, that tells you something's up.
Well, when they're elected representatives.
Yeah. Oh, they represent somebody, just not you. They represent their lobbyists.
I appreciate your show. I do, and I hope everybody will tune in and listen and tell their friends.
All right, I appreciate it, Randy. Thanks a lot, and thanks for the call. We're coming up on the end of the show here. Let's see here.
See, he knew about the boiling frog theory.
He knew about the boiling frog theory. You just bring that heat up slow, and that frog will just be content until he's cooked. Unfortunately, we're starting to get cooked. So
we're there.
Anyway, we've come up on the last of the show here, and again, I would like to thank everyone for listening and calling in and making this show. You're just making it more and more successful each week, and I just can't thank you guys enough. If you want more information about us, you can go to our Facebook page at facebook.com/Patrick Riggins Show. That last name is spelled Riggins Show. And be sure and hit the like button on there. And you don't have to be on Facebook to go to that. You can see it even without a Facebook account. If you'd like to follow us on Twitter, it's @ Patrick Riggins. And you can also tune in to our brand spanking new YouTube channel at youtube.com/Patrick Riggins Show. There, we try to get this show, we try to have it up tonight by tomorrow at the latest. our guys also break up the show into topics, so you don't have to listen to the whole hour. You can listen to just whatever topic you want to listen to covered in that segment. And you can also hear the archives as well. So join me next Sunday afternoon at 4 p.m. where once again we'll talk about freedom, liberty, and the restoration of the Constitution. This is Patrick Riggins. We'll see you next Sunday. Have a fantastic week this week.
Join us again next week for a solid dose of truth on the Patrick Riggins Show every Sunday from 4 to 5 p.m. Be there.